Hey guys, what's going on? So on the Hot Rod Power Tour, I had some fuel supply issues with my old Cadillac that's here behind me. And one of the issues is it was cavitating because I run an external pump. And so I think what I'm gonna do is swap over to an in-tank pump. So let me show you what I got first and then show you the parts that I ordered from Holley and kind of show you the game plan, and we'll walk you through how I do this. So here's my current setup that I did years and years ago when I LS swapped this. And I welded on a sump on the bottom of the tank there. And you can see it comes out of a 90 degree, goes right into a big pre-filter, and then directly into this inline filter, or pump, I'm sorry. And it's gravity fed, and it's worked great, except for when I went on the power tour and was driving hours on end during the smoking hot day, it started to cavitate. And I talked to the company that makes this pump, and he explained that basically what was happening is because I run a full length return line, the fuel's going all the way to the engine, getting heated up, coming back to the tank. Plus, you know, this car's really low off the ground, so the asphalt's radiating heat up into the tank, and it's heating up the fuel. And then when the pump, even though it's gravity fed, it still produces a lot of vacuum and pulls on the fuel coming through there, and it would cause cavitation. So it left me stranded a little bit. I ended up, after talking to them, I figured out what the issue was, and I made sure I always drove first thing in the morning when it was nice and cool. But what I'm gonna do now is swap this over to an in-tank pump, like a retrofit deal from Holley. So I actually won't need this sump, so I'll probably end up just capping it off, or I might use it for the return. I'm not sure yet. But anyways, that's kind of the setup right now. So let me get the tank out, and we'll go from there. So I have the tank out now, and here is the pump assembly. So this is a Holley 12-130 in-tank retrofit kit. And I wanted to show you guys what it all comes with it. So first is this hydromat piece. So this is ultra absorbent that goes on the bottom of the fuel pump, and it kind of lays on the bottom of the tank, and it'll help suck fuel to prevent any sort of starvation. I've seen videos of this stuff where just the tip of it is in fuel and the pump's way over here, and it still will suck it all the way up. That stuff's pretty cool. So here's the main piece itself. This is the assembly that we'll have to install in the tank. So you can see it has 3 ports here. One's pressure out, one's a vent, and one's a return. And then there's obviously a power and a ground wire for the pump itself. So there's a foam gasket there that's kind of hard to tell, but a foam gasket that seals it. And then there's all these little arms that they're tight right now, but they flip out. So when they'll flip out when we're tightening it, and be able to pinch the tank and this tight to where it doesn't leak. This is a return tube that comes already installed. This is the pump itself. Now we only used a 255 pump on this because it's basically a bone stock LQ4 engine. It doesn't need anything more than that, but they do offer this kit with upgraded fuel pumps as well should you need that. So we'll have to cut down this tube and this tube to fit. This is a metal bracket that'll get installed in here to support the fuel pump. Hose clamps to clamp the pump to this metal bracket. So basically it just all supports that fuel pump so it doesn't break off or bounce around and come loose or anything like that. Instructions, which are really well done. And this is a piece of foam that you can use to space down your tank a little bit. If your tank mounts super close to the trunk floor, you can space it down to get this in between. So I started researching this a little bit and reading through the instructions, and it says that the minimum tank depth is 7 inches. So it needs to be a minimum 7 inches deep in order to fit that pump and the bracket there. Now measuring my tank, which is a Cadillac tank, is only 6 inches deep. So I'm in a bit of a pickle here, but then I was thinking about it. This sump I'm no longer gonna need, but it still will function. So I washed this tank out with soapy water to kill all the fuel vapors, so that's why you see that. But this will give, this is about 2.5 inches deep. So what I'm gonna do is mount the fuel pump right here, and then that way it can go down into this sump, and then that hydromat will just kind of flop out on either side to help keep fuel to the pump. But otherwise, it'll still accumulate here in the sump area. I bought this previously, so it needs a 3¼ inch hole. So I'm gonna mount it right about there. I'm gonna measure, and that rubber foam gasket on the mounting point here, it can handle up to about a 1/4 inch rib. So this is about a 1/4 inch or probably less. So I'll be able to cut through this bracing rib here, and it'll still be able to seal nicely. So let me get things measured up, and we'll cut a hole in here, and I'll get back to you. All right, so I got it marked where it needs to go, and I drilled the pilot hole. So now, a moment of truth. Okay, drilled it. There's our 3¼ inch hole. So you can kind of see inside here. I gotta find the piece that dropped, and need to wash it out and deburr it. Like you can see that deburr right there. I just wanted to show you. So this is the piece, that 3¼ inch hole that we cut, and I just have this sitting here. I kind of want to see what it looked like, and how high it sits and everything. But I think I'll put because the tank mounts here, so I'll put that foam down to give me that little bit of space that I need. But this just kind of sits in there, and then it'll eventually smush down to where it'll seal right there when I tighten all these down. But that's it right there. So what I'll do next is I'm going to measure and clean this thing out, and we'll get this all assembled to show you. So this is what the retrofit kit kind of looks like completed. We cut down the return tube, and we did the math to cut down the supply tube, and so we had to hose clamp it right there. And what I wanted to show you is we cut down the support bracket, and you can see there's 2 Allen screws that hold this into place, and this is kind of how this works. So when we set it in the tank and we start tightening these little guys will flip out, and they'll go up against the bottom side of the tank as we tighten it down. And that'll crush this down to seal the tank and hold this in place. So one thing I did do just to verify my math was I took out the sending unit for the factory fuel gauge, and I set this in here kind of like that. And then I got a flashlight, and I looked down in there to see what kind of space I have between the bottom of the fuel pump and the bottom of the tank. But remember too, the hydromat, and it's about 1 inch thick, is going to go on the bottom of the fuel pump there, so that'll take up a little bit of space too. So right now the next step is basically to put the hydromat piece on there and bolt that guy down. All right, I got this tank ready to put back in the car. So just to update you, I put these foam strips, but I ended up cutting them in half and doubling them up just to give me a little extra padding and everything, and to space it down just a little bit more. So on mine, I ended up deciding to just continue to reuse this return that I used before. So I don't have to modify the fuel line coming to it or anything. So this used to be my supply, so I capped that off. So basically on here, I capped off the return. Now, if you don't have a vented tank, then you'll definitely want to use this vent. But I have a big, about a 1/2 inch vent tube on the chassis to vent the fuel tank. So I don't really need a second one, especially this close. So I just capped those guys off, and just screwed in this, it's a 1/4 inch pipe thread, these guys, and then this is an adapter to go to 1/4 inch pipe thread to -6, which is what my supply is on the car. And then I also extended my hot and ground wires and kind of tucked these away so they won't rub up against anything. So next step is to wrestle this thing back under the car, and you can see it's still over here, and then just be a matter of connecting everything back up. All right, so it took a little bit of struggling, but we got the fuel tank back up there. You can see a lot cleaner installation now without that fuel pump hanging low, which I always worried about going over speed bumps or hitting potholes, things like that. So a lot more ground clearance now. But yeah, let's go see if this thing will fire up now with this new fuel pump. I'm gonna cycle the key a couple times to let it prime the system, work out any air. It's definitely quieter than the old one. There it is. So in-tank fuel pump's all done. Hopefully we shouldn't have any more issues with this car on the next power tour or anything like that. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. I mean, other than I gotta go drive it, right? So that was the Holley in-tank retrofit fuel pump kit. It took me a majority of the day, but I had to run to Ace and get those little brass fittings and stuff. So if I had everything sitting here, it'd probably take 4 or 5 hours at the most. So pretty easy installation. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.